screenfiles.com and review. The movie I'm looking at today is What Happened to Monday. It's directed by Tommy Wirkola, who did movies like Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters, and Red Snow 1 and 2. The premise of this movie is really awesome. I like movies that have logical, scientific premises, and this one does. In a future very much like our own, humanity begins to tax the Earth's ability to provide, in the sense that our population is growing astronomically all over the world, and therefore we just can't produce enough food. Agriculturally, the world is reaching a point of collapse, and in this movie it does. Though we use science to bridge the gap via genetically modified foods. And so the population is growing, but now we have the resources to feed that population, which sounds great. But again, within the world of the movie, though, it's worth mentioning that genetically modified foods have people who think there's serious problems with them. So it's actually very much based on reality in that sense. In any case, the Earth now can produce a bountiful amount of food for everyone, but there's a problem. You have more food, but you also have more people. And I mentioned earlier that that food was genetically modified. So within the movie, this food we've tinkered with has a problem. It creates, not only people are reproducing much more, but they're reproducing many more children per pregnancy as well. So you're having more instances of triplets, quadruplets, and that type of thing, and also more children with birth defects as well. So the science we use to get us out of the problem has actually made the situation worse. We produce more food, but we're producing more children, and the cycle continues. So in this movie, which has very fascistic overtones to it, which is again fitting to the material, an agency is introduced whose purpose is to put excess children to sleep. It's almost like China with their former one-child policy. I believe they don't have it anymore, but it's like that idea. So a family can only have one child, and the excess children, if children can ever be called excess, are put to sleep cryogenically, so to speak. So that's the premise of What Happened to Monday. As I mentioned earlier, many people, when they do have children, have more than ones, and identical children, because of the genetic modification of food. So in this instance, Willem Dafoe has 7 children, all girls. And this is illegal, so he hides them, and and since they're identical, they can disguise as one person, and they're named Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Kind of silly on the face of it. It's actually kind of clever. So each child would go out on the day that their name corresponds to. It's kind of a neat idea. They're all Noomi Rapace when they're adults, and the movie revolves around her efforts. One of the children, Monday, What Happened to Monday, vanishes, and the other siblings have to find Monday without alerting the authorities to the fact that they exist. It's a neat idea, but the thing of it is, the movie doesn't work with that idea very well. It pretty much uses it to set the world it exists in, and abandons it just as quickly, turning to action schlock, which is such a pity, because particularly the sequences with Willem Dafoe and the children before they grow up to be Noomi Rapace, there's a very Anne Frank type of feel to the scene, where you have this father who's trying to save the life of his children, and he hides them from the from the authorities, which is comparable, at least structurally, to what happened to Anne Frank and the Nazis. Hiding from them, or they would be exterminated in her case, or taken to a concentration camp, then exterminated. Same difference, really. But it's a great premise for a movie. It could have really been a very quiet, meditative study of fascism and its effects on this family. Instead, it's just action schlock. Coming from Tommy Wirkola, that's not a shock necessarily, but it is disappointing because this movie could have been so much more than what it is. And it's not a bad movie, let's be clear. It's well shot, it looks good. The future that's envisioned is not too far from our own. It's nothing like a Luc Besson movie, The Fifth Element, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. It's technologically beyond today, but not light years so. So it's a relatable future, which is really nice. That helps. I mean, the production design is really good. It's, well, some cases it's a little overdone, but on the whole, it's good. It's an interesting movie, and the premise, as I said, is great. But it's just so empty, and it's just so disappointing. I mean, there's no other way to describe this movie than just disappointing. It's well done, well executed, but it could have been so much more than it is. If you have I believe it runs just over 2 hours. If you have a little time, I'd give it a watch. But don't expect a lot from it. Even though it sets up the initial premise, don't expect all that much. You'll probably have a better time with it. This is Brian, review from screenfiles.com. Peace.